What's up, independent agents? Are you driving your clients off to the carrier self-servicing platforms after the sale just to minimize your service demand? Stop doing that with the premier mobile and web agency solution, GloveBox. Now you can keep your clients in front of your agency at all times, all while delivering the carrier self-service experience that will minimize your service costs and absolutely wow your customers. On top of that, GloveBox will help you increase your cross-sales, referrals, and overall retention with an easy-to-use policyholder interface. Trust me, guys, we're using this at Portal Insurance, and this is literally happening. We are selling policies and servicing policies through our app. Schedule your demo with GloveBox today, and be sure to mention the Insurance Guys podcast for 20% off of your subscription for the life of your account. Guys, it's so cool that I can tell my clients, download the Portal app. Thanks, GloveBox.
3, 2, 1. Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Saraland, Alabama. Parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
Great, Scott. How are you today?
Best I have ever been. Ladies and gentlemen, if you hear noise in the background, we are in Dolly World. That's what I've renamed it, Dolly World. We are in...
I thought we were calling it Scott World.
We are in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee at the Young Agents of Tennessee Conference today, and we are fired up to help you insurance agents in any way we can. We have a star-studded cast here today. Bradley, we got a bunch of folks here I hadn't seen in a while,
Bunch of folks.
Sydney Rowe, David Carruthers, C.J. Hunsenpiller,
Ashley Fitzsimmons. We got the gang is all here. Guys, we are excited and humbled to be here and be a part of it. So I guess you could call this our first really live We're
podcast.
kind of like animals in the zoo right now with people walking around looking at us.
We really are. Yeah.
Good. I think it adds to the ambiance, and it brings people into the experience of what's going on when they're listening to this after the fact.
Absolutely. Guys, we have got a big podcast for you today. I'm excited and humbled to have our guest on the show today. He is part of the Young Agents Conference here. He was hand-selected to be on this podcast.
He found out 30 minutes ago he was going to be on the podcast.
He was not, I don't even think he was on property when he found out he was getting interviewed. So we're excited and proud to have him today. And allow me to give him the introduction he has always deserved. Ladies and gentlemen, he is originally from Knoxville, Tennessee, and he currently resides in Fountain City, Tennessee. He is married to the beautiful Stephanie, and they have 3 beautiful babies. He co-leads his college ministry at their local church in Fountain City and is the agency owner of Elite Insurance Group in Knoxville, Tennessee. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor today to introduce to you first-time guest on the IGP. Please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Chaz Goodin. How are you, Chaz?
Hey, I'm great. How about you guys?
Well, thank you so much for being here. Chaz, you may have to pick that up and talk into it. I just don't want to make sure they can hear everything that you're saying today. Chaz, we've got a lot to talk about today, but before we do, go ahead and get in my DeLorean for just a moment and go back in time and tell all of our listening audience today kind of how you got in the insurance industry and bring us up to today.
Yeah, sure. So I was at University of Tennessee, and we were just, me and my wife were finishing up college there in marketing, management, HR, she did some of that, and didn't know what we were going to do. Just kind of had an opportunity open up with her father-in-law. He was the agency founder, found it somewhere, I think in the 90s, early 90s, and decided to go independent. He was with Tennessee State and decided to go on his own with a classic car insurance twist. He's a car builder by trade, and he's got car of his own. It's a 67 fastback Mustang that he just got finished up building. So it's been a long process. He's built that over the course of the last 10 years since we've owned the agency, and so just now finishing that up. But that was kind of his niche, and he had a good network of a car club that he was a part of, and they got to branching out in East Tennessee and became a general agent for American Modern. And that's kind of how they got started with the classic car product. And so he was an appraiser. and could just give values assigned to the cars that we insured. And so they let him have the underwriter status to do that, and really grew that book, and then decided to branch out into the health and auto and home and all that. And so all that kind of turned into a pretty healthy agency that him and another agent were running. And then he was ready to retire about the time me and my wife were finishing up school. So he said, we don't have any other plans. So we stepped right in, and it's been, like I said, a long process of him just transferring, the ownership and introducing us to all of his clients, and just kind of taking it one year at a time and seeing what it all has. So,
Chaz, tell our audience what the biggest challenge for you has been, kind of taking over that agency owner role. I know you bought it from your father-in-law. Now, when did you say, how long ago was that?
Yeah, so we came on in, I would say about 2011 when we first started kind of interning with him, just seeing what it was all about. And I just took a position in the agency as kind of like an agent, kind of like an apprentice, I guess. And
Working for father-in-law.
Working for father-in-law, yep. Just sitting at his side, watching.
Did you have any anxiety day one?
I did, because this was in 2011. If you remember when the hailstorms came through East Tennessee, it was a catastrophic storm. And so shortly after those came through, we had about 3 or 4 more, and the phones, they did not stop ringing. It was chaos. I didn't know if I wanted to do it anymore because it was just so busy all the time, and it wasn't the kind of fun busy, writing policies and helping people. It was just trying to get a hold of adjusters and find a good roofer that didn't want to just come out and put on a quick roof. So that was a crazy time to be in the industry, but after that, kind of figured more out, that it wasn't always like that, and that we could kind of
take
it a little slower.
Straight. Like the month or two after you came on, we have those catastrophic storms, and so in your mind, you're thinking, this is awful, because y'all are just working claim after claim after claim.
Yeah, claims are not what you want. Obviously, you want to help people find what they need and service things that are claim related, but not just help people just get in touch with people. So that was definitely like a big challenge to entering the industry and stuff when that happened. But it kind of prepared us to kind of see what it could be, and just what we would do in an instance like that, and how the companies responded. So we learned a lot. Got to go to a lot of different meetings that companies were having. Some pulled out of Tennessee over it, and we had to transfer our books over to other carriers. Some handled it really well. Some didn't even have to really blink an eye about it. They just handled it with ease. So just an interesting time.
It's funny. So Leith in my office started 2 days before Hurricane Sally. So he was straight out of grad school, got his MBA, took a job with us. Starts on a Tuesday, like a Monday, and on Wednesday, Hurricane Sally hits. First direct hit hurricane we had in 16 years. So 2 days later, he's handling catastrophe claims. We basically just said, here's the script. This is what you say. Answer the phone and go. And so I told him once we got back in the office and things kind of like got back to normal, I was like, look, there's a lot of really successful people in various industries, not just insurance, that have a story like that. For example, Ryan Serhant, who earlier this month, I think, sold a house. He's a real estate agent, sold a house. It was the largest single-family home transaction in the United States in history, yeah. And his story is he started the day before the economic collapse in 2008. And so I told him that. I was like, look, don't let that discourage you. Like, there's a lot of successful people that have started that way, and then also, you're seeing the bad of it immediately. It can only get better from here. So to you, you're probably like, well, crap, if I could handle, a catastrophic event in 2011 and come through the other side, like not absolutely hating the business, I'm probably going to be pretty good, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we just kind of stuck it out. We had a good team. We just kind of took, we knew we could only do so much, and people were very understanding during that time. We had a really good group of people. These classic car folks, they're resilient. So a lot of their cars were in a cover structure, which was awesome. And, they only just had roof claims to deal with, and just, like I said, dealing with those adjusters, then getting people contacted and everything. So yeah, it just helped us know that, like, well, if this is as bad as it gets, then we can handle a lot of the things that come in the future. So
I'll tell you something. You start dealing with a classic car enthusiast about their insurance, you better know your stuff, or they'll leave you real quick and call you out real quick and make you feel stupid real quick.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we insure some classic cars through Haggerty in our agency. I know there's some other companies that do it. We've just kind of always used Haggerty, I guess, for that. But you're right, man. Those guys love their cars, and it's a tremendous opportunity for your agency to lead with the classic car business and get everything else from those guys, because most classic car guys have houses and maybe boat, multiple other vehicles. That's an interesting lead-in to get all their other business.
Talk a little bit about, since we're here, the Insurers of Tennessee. When you joined, and even if you're listening to this and you're not in Tennessee, every state has an association. There's always great reasons to join. Talk a little bit about why you joined and kind of what it means, what the organization means for your business.
Well, I was approached by Derek Wright. I've known him for a lot of years now.
Standing right across the room from us.
He
right
is.
there.
He's over there.
There he is right there.
He's a good-looking guy.
We're just talking about you.
So yeah, Derek introduced me to the organization, and I'd heard about him before. We're part of the SIAA, and so we've been exposed to a lot of different network groups, and that's always a really good meeting to go to because you get to see what's out there and stuff. So the Big I was always standing out to us, and we just thought that we were definitely going to find one to join just to have the support and just the legislation that goes behind it. For the independent channel, we know how important that is, and just really to see other agents and stuff. We don't get a whole lot of opportunities. Last year, obviously, there was very little interaction with other people, and so
CJ said he joined last year in order to get to go to some events,
right,
and that didn't work out really well.
No,
it's good to be back, and you can kind of feel it. I mean, there's really not that many people here in this room, and you can kind of feel the buzz. So, like, people are excited to see other people, and sometimes that leads its hand to like having a headache in the morning sometimes when you haven't seen people in a long time and you have a good time. But that's awesome.
So we got to talk about this. My job is to help all these agents out there that listen to our podcast, right? So let's talk a little bit about what it was like to take over the ownership position in the agency. And for these agents that are listening to this right now, maybe they're working for a dad or a father-in-law or somebody, and they're getting ready to, transition into that agency owner position. Give these guys some ideas and thoughts on kind of how you did that, what's different about that versus just writing insurance every day. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's definitely unique to work with family. My wife's in there with me, so that's even more of a challenge for all of us three to just kind of make this whole transaction possible and smooth. And I just learned early on that family's a special way to do business with because you know the clients on a more personal basis, but there's also some financial challenges of just really putting those expectations on paper and having a plan, so there's just a lot of things unsaid, in a family transaction that we kind of learned that we had to kind of go and just really hold all of us accountable on what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. When we were young, we didn't know really how all this worked, new to the industry, not really understanding how any kind of buyout or anything like that worked, and so he put together just sort of a retirement plan for himself to be able to sustain, through the years that he planned on being retired. And so we just kind of agreed on, what we would do just to pay off the business monthly. And he was gracious enough not to make us take out a loan or anything like that. We just worked out a family deal, and we still got the papers drawn up with the lawyers and made sure there was a good, solid operating agreement for the sake of our employees, just knowing that this place is headed in the right direction and we can, feel confident in our jobs and things like that. And so, and just making sure that, all the employees were paid, and because this was two of us trying to take on a salary at the time. So what my wife did was she just went and worked in the industry, but at a call center. That not only paid for her training and her license, but they kind of gave her some experience being on the phone. And she worked in banking and things like that before, so that was a good transition while I was there for her to get industry experience and not have to come over and take a salary right away. So that kind of eased some of the financial burden that we were facing at the time. So
how did that go with, and we've interviewed quite a few people who've taken over agencies and taken over family agencies and in-laws agencies and that sort of thing. How did that transition go as it relates to the employees that were there, the other team members? Because regardless of the situation and regardless of how good that relationship is, that's a delicate river to travel down. How did that go really well and you guys just got lucky?
Hey, by the way,
was it
CJ Huntsonpiller ought to be sitting right here listening to this right now.
He should.
Because I think that's going down in February of
2022. Yeah, he's over there busy though. He's good.
Right.
Yeah, so if it's just kind of a transfer and the owner's out pretty quick, I think that could be a very rough transition because they wouldn't necessarily know your passion, your vision. This obviously had the advantage of being a family one, and I worked in the agency a long time before this happened. So I think if you can do that as an agent and just let that transition happen naturally instead of trying to just come in and make a lot of changes at first. There was a very specific way that our father-in-law and he had one other agent at the time, just they had a way of doing things. And so for me to come in and realize that was kind of the way I was going to do things, and then slowly implement new changes.
Rip the Band-Aid off. I've made that mistake before.
That's right, yeah. So there's a lot of technological changes I want to make, just seeing that kind of trend happen with digital and paperless and things like that, and not jumping the gun too soon. But luckily we only had the one other agent and a CSR, so it wasn't a huge staff to try to.
Yeah, if you had a staff of 30, that would be a lot different.
It'd be very challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a situation when I was captive where I shared the office with a tenured agent for 4 years, and then he retired, and I had all these things that I was trying to do, or that I'd planned on doing, like 5 years of ideas built up, because everything we did I had to make it his idea and that sort of thing. So I had 5 years of plans built up. Well, then the month he retired, I tried to implement all of it at once, and we lose a couple staff members. People hate me. It did not. And they're like, "Oh, you're too big for your britches now." I'm like, "Well, no, it's just 5 years of."
It's hard.
Yeah, it's very. And I didn't have at the time. I did not have those two things going on. One, I did not have the maturity and the patience to do that slowly, but also I knew that if these 8 things I tried to implement did not work, I was probably going to leave. So it was kind of a combination of both of those things, and even had I had the patience, I still would have done it because of thing number 2. But I've totally been in those shoes at a different level, so I know those waters can be tough to navigate. Yeah.
Hey, is there anything looking back on it now you would have done differently? Or do you just think it just kind of all fell into place the way it was supposed to fall into place?
I would say the number one thing to do different is just finances. I mean, it's the thing nobody likes to talk about a whole lot. It's the finances, yeah. So that's just something that it kind of gets tangled sometimes. And so just probably putting ourselves through a little bit more of a disciplined process of realizing what that entailed for us, going forward, to be able to just do our taxes, pay our employees, and then we're kind of last on that list, and so just budgeting. My wife just literally just assumed that role as soon as we kind of got in there, because her passion was that, but my passion is not necessarily that. I do it because I have to, and I like the other side of the agency. So to have a good partner in that, a lot of agency owners probably don't have their wife working in there. They may have a bookkeeper or a someone working the commissions and things like that. But just the number side of it was always something that I wasn't super involved in, and I should have been. Just being open and honest with with everyone involved about what we needed, what we had to have. There were some hard months. There were some months we didn't know where it was going to come from, and we learned the hard way a few years, and just kept saying we're going to do better. But until we put a plan together financially, it was always a struggle initially. So, but when you're working for somebody, it's different because you got a paycheck and you kind of just keep producing, doing what you're doing. When you own the business, you're the last on the list to get that check, and you got to make sure there's enough. So
I tell everybody I make less money in my office than everybody.
Oh yeah,
and that's 100% true.
Well, I don't make less than everybody. I make less than some, but I'm gonna say this: you've got a previous owner, and I believe you said a partner as well. Is that right?
My wife's my partner. Yeah.
Okay, I'm saying that you bought out your father-in-law, but did he have a partner? Or was
it was just him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, y'all agree on what you're going to pay him each month, and you've got to really sharpen your pencil before you make that agreement to make sure that, hey, we got all these other expenses related to the agency and employees and what we're going to pay ourselves and vendors, and is this number the nut that you're paying him, is that going to work or not? And I think that's something that people have to really look at, take a real hard look at before they make that decision that, I'm willing to sign on the dotted line here that I'm going to pay this person. Because I know a lot of agents that do kind of an owner financing agreement with the previous agent, and boy, it's not that bad when you're signing the paperwork, but 2 or 3 months into it, you might be going, wait a minute, we're losing money here, the ship's going down. It can be a difficult thing, so you got to just be really careful about that and make sure, that whatever you agree to, you can uphold your bargain to, I see that. So leave these agents with one thought before we go today, because we've got another breakout session we're going to do in just a few minutes. Give these agents one piece of advice from Chaz how they can get better if they're thinking about buying an agency from a family member or just buying an agency in general. In fact, I've been toying with the idea of buying an agency. What's the one piece of advice you would give them?
I would say just have in your mind, your expectations for your long-term goals versus your short-term.
Don't just buy for the sake of buying.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So have those goals in mind. It's exciting, to enter into that world and to assume that for the first time. And so the excitement can drive you into making changes too fast or doing that. And just thinking that you're kind of the only person that can make all this happen. We obviously our faith is important to us. So we pray a lot each day about decisions that we're making. We're just really trying to ask God for guidance, and we're not trying to force things to be successful in the eyes of the world. We're just trying to put the agents that we have in our office first, and our employees, and then our clients' interests, and then just serve them, love on them, things like that. And so, but yeah, just focusing on short term too much can get you in a little bit ahead of where the agency is, and just wanting to develop people so much and get the most out of them, not being patient with them, things like that. So just say the more patience you can have in those processes and seeing people's true potential and even what you can do just by having those plans in mind can be a huge asset. So
that is a beautiful place to end this podcast right there.
And I absolutely love the shirt.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Love it. I love the shirt.
I appreciate you, your faith, your passion for the industry. You stepped in there. You started your career at the probably worst possible time you could start it, and I can tell that you're going to be very successful in this business. I appreciate you being with us today. Guys, as I always say, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk today and go out into the big bad world. Build relationships, make money for your family, for your wife, for your husband, for your kids' college fund, for your parents that are struggling out there today. Write good business for the agencies that you represent, and write good business for the companies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Chaz.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you, man. Guys, you were listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we love you very much, and we appreciate you being a part of our family, and we will see you back here next week on the next episode of the Insurance Guys podcast. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at iprotectins@gmail.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to bradleyflowersinsurance.com or email him at bradley@saralandinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again real soon on the next episode of the Insurance Guys. Take care.